Hello everyone, it's Piotr speaking. I'd like to welcome you to the current live stream from ChronoLogic. We're gonna talk about the subscription models and how the Ethereum Alarm Clock and the Chronos is relevant and involved, about the challenges, and we're gonna discuss with Sean in general what's the idea and all the stuff around. So please let me know if you hear me. Please give me the one into the question box. All right, thank you. Let's go. So let's start with the updates. Yeah, so as you know, we're giving you the weekly updates about our progress on both Ethereum Alarm Clock, the DApp, decentralized application that we're building, and the Chronos Protocol, and all these things that we building for you. So last Friday we did our bi-weekly uh, update on our code base. It's called Pen Ultimate. So feature wise is not maybe some huge changes besides the cool stuff that has been delivered by Joseph, namely the economic strategy configuration. So you can actually now define some of the parameters that's gonna determine how your time node is gonna operate, when it's gonna claim, and what kind of situation it should react. The actually very important thing, and that what was the focus for a team for past weeks, is that we have absolutely refurbished, rebuild the background, the underlying code for running the time node and scheduling. So now we actually rename it to the time node core, which is formerly known as EAC.js libraries. So the main change is that there is a lot of under the hood improvements. We have much more confidence in the code. We introduced the testing, and everything basically is to bring as much as stability and the performance improvement. So operating time nodes is as smooth as possible. So that was the short update on ongoing stuff. Let's do a very quick refresher. What's the Chronos Protocol? So some of you might not be the the attendees that have been before on our live stream. So as you may actually hear before, there is a Ethereum Alarm Clock, which is a time-based scheduling protocol, and we are building. So Ethereum Alarm Clock is gonna be soon on the mainnet. We actually now gathering the feedback from the auditors. So we hopefully gonna release in a very reasonable amount of time from now. So what's Chronos? Chronos is obviously the thing that we building as a second or version 2.0 of the Ethereum Alarm Clock. Is completely different. It does have few changes that distinguish him from the previous protocol. One of them is the conditional scheduling, which we are huge believers, and we think it's gonna change the way that you can do the automation on the smart contract level. And some of you probably already know it was a base for building a stop loss functionality for the Melon Port fund. So we really excited about this. We definitely think it's have a future, and we working on that.
Yeah, and you're taking the lead on that. You really published a nice article on Medium about the future of conditional scheduling.
Yeah, totally. So if just check out our Medium ChronoLogic network Medium, there is a post called more than just a time. And yeah, I encourage you to read it, to comment, to obviously like, and just share your thoughts. And here we can also say that all the live stream, all the things that we're running is to to keep the community informed. So this is very important for us. So you know where we are, what we're doing, and basically to also help you understand why we're taking some of these decisions, and so on and so forth.
And Peter, you're traveling around the world to these different conferences, and you're in talks and working groups with a lot of projects, and it seems like conditional scheduling is something everyone's interested in.
Yeah, definitely. So I must say I was currently in Berlin on the Off the Chain workshop, which was a focused working group, working workshop for a state channels, the payment channels, payment networks. So it was a very nice initiative. There was quite a lot of projects, both from the Ethereum and the Bitcoin ecosystems. Uh, it was partially uh, full with, I mean, loaded with the researchers, and there was definitely very interesting content. And in general, it was a very good workshop. So one of the ideas, and that was mentioned before, for Chronos is, and what we basically currently exploring is the idea of building a watchtower, which is in very short words, some third party that is
Like
watching the
monitoring,
state.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a monitoring tool. So it's watching the state channel and can act and give some sort of insurance and improve the usability. So this is something that we're looking into. It's very, I would say, so I mean, what I'm trying to say is that the implementation for the state channels on Ethereum are not yet entirely available. So it's also kind of hard to to build something that's not yet fully available. But we are talking to the projects that building this kind of protocols and the implementation. So definitely this is something that we're looking forward. Okay, so now, Sean, could you let's basically get into the merit of this live stream. So let's talk about the subscription economy, subscription-based business models. So Sean, can you just take over from here?
Sure. It used to be that we would buy DVDs or before that, VHS tapes, and we would have ownership over these products. It was a very product-focused economy. But as we can see with Netflix and Uber and all of these other companies, they really are changing things, and our whole economy is digitizing and is going to more of a subscription-based model. And this is obviously multi-billion dollar industry. And we are really looking at how this is going to change from centralized to decentralized. So um, Peter and I were talking about all the different ways that uh, we use a subscription-based model nowadays. I mean, personally, I use Google for my cloud storage on a subscription basis. I use my music on a subscription basis. Same thing with my movies. What about you, Peter?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. So yeah, definitely. This is like, I feel like we now like changing, or that our consumer behaviors and patterns are definitely changing. So now we used to into more of basically buying the access to something rather than ownership, having the ownership of things. Like, yeah, definitely. So music, movies, we're not gonna names those well-known companies and products, but yeah, it seems like we getting into the point that you only gonna pay for the access rather than buying the right or the ownership of those things,
Yeah,
which
and it really empowers the consumer because the company has to continue to keep their trust to keep that subscription going because they can cancel anytime. So
yeah,
I think
totally. So
overall it's been a positive trend, but there are some downsides to it with the centralization.
yeah, I mean, obviously there, this thing needs to be facilitated, which means that you can't really like do the subscriptions peer to peer. So you always end up with some sort of trusted custodian. I'm gonna show you on the next slide a little bit more in details what we mean, but definitely it's basically the fee structures for all this kind of payments are pretty steep, and yeah, we just paying tons of money for the
Yeah.
convenience of having this kind of services and products.
Yeah, they're siphoning financial energy from the consumer side and the business side, and these third parties, banks, credit cards, and all of these, they use our data, they lose our data. There's a well-known bank that actually started fake accounts under other people, their customers' names. They got sued by billions of dollars by the government for doing that. So you can't always trust these trusted
Yeah,
custodians.
unfortunately, and maybe fortunately, because then people started thinking about how can we change this, and we definitely into the group of people that we are, I would say, like bullish on the decentralization. That's why we're here. That's why we're building the decentralized scheduling protocols. That's why we are in the Ethereum community, helping to basically bring the whole idea to spread this way of thinking, and to put this kind of understanding to people, because I would say that none of, like, as I'm giving, like, the everyone, every single person, people, all the peoples understands how, why the decentralization is bad, and all this stuff. So yeah, we definitely want to change it. So, but one of the things is obviously that it is very convenient, right, to use the fiat money and the credit cards to do the payments or the subscriptions. It's definitely, like, it's invisible. So that's, I
Right.
think, that's one of the goals for the blockchains, to achieve the same user experience as the current economy, because it's gonna be way too hard, for people to convince them to trade the the decentralization and the trustless way of doing stuff for the convenience, for the user experience. So that definitely, that the both Ethereum Foundation, all the community is looking for. So a lot of effort to bring the user experience that everyone knows and
Yeah.
understands.
But currently, it's technically not possible to do a recurring payment on Ethereum blockchain, for example.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, you can't really do the recurring payments, because that would require, the some sort of form of scheduling, which means that you would need to have a third party to trigger your transactions, if you want to delegate that. I mean, yes, of course you can do this manually by sending the payment every month manually, right? So, but this is not
Right.
truly the recurring payment, automatic recurring
Right.
payment. Okay, so yeah, maybe just to bring everyone on the same page, like, we have a couple of these different payment methods. Everyone knows, like, fixed recurring payments, monthly payments, all this kind of stuff for music, the videos and all these things. But we also have things like pay as you go. You can namely says, like, the cloud providers, where you gonna be charged per usage, per the resources you have been using, and all this stuff. So there are two different models, and just to mention it, things are now powered by the credit cards, usually, because the credit card is in general the agreement between you and the bank, and they give you the credit line, and because of that, there is banks is basically trusting you. And we can skip to the next slide. So what does it mean that where's the trust, like, in the fiat economy now? So the trusted custodian at the bottom is basically, might be a bank, a PayPal, all this kind of centralized parties. So in general, the bank has to trust you that you will gonna pay your debt, but from the merchant, or the service provider, they actually need to trust bank that they that's gonna pay whatever they actually, that's what was your payment, or the deal that you, or the subscription that you have signed to. So that's more or less, we can probably describe how does this look like today. Sean, wanna add
Yeah.
something?
So on the left, you have the end user, someone who wants to watch movies, and then on the right you have like, the Netflix or whatever company that's providing the service, and then the trusted custodian in the middle could be Visa, MasterCard, PayPal.
Yeah, exactly. So this is something that's gonna be also like on the next slide from the so just bear in that we have the service, so we have a notion of subscribing or like buying the service. Then we also have the payment thing, which is actually in the fiat money facilitated by some sort of third party banks, Visa, MasterCard, all these kind of things. And so you eventually by subscribing to a service, you put usually your credit card numbers, so they are allowed to charge for the service on a monthly basis, pay as you go, and all this kind of models, right? And here the trusted custodian is for bringing the trust, meaning that what does it mean is that the merchant or the provider doesn't really need to think whether the customer is gonna pay, right? Because that's kind of guaranteed by the trusted custodian.
Right.
So how does this could look like in the centralized subscription economy? So based on the cryptocurrencies. So we basically gonna, I mean, there is no notion of the trusted custodian. The decentralized way of doing the subscription economy would be that the payment is some sort of smart contract that actually brings the trust. I mean, we don't really need to trust the smart contract, because I mean we need to trust the developer who created that. But the difference from the decentralized, or I mean from the centralized way, is that we have or we can have the like complete transparency on how the contract is going to be executed, how it's going to work, etc. So here we can say that's more or less trustless, because it's gonna, regardless of whatever, it's gonna work always like that. There is no other decision that can be taken by the contract besides those that has been signed or deployed, in other words. So that's the difference. But that's
Yeah.
actually, yeah.
I was just going to say one of the benefits of having an elegant model like this is that you wouldn't have these third parties losing or having your data, and they wouldn't be causing an indirect inflation to the goods and services.
Yeah, exactly, because all the fees that are collected by those providers are definitely inflating the price of whatever the service or the goods that are provided. Here there is obviously a chance to make it much cheaper. Obviously, we know that the let's say the cost for the transactions on the blockchains like Ethereum depends. So sometimes might be more expensive than the regular transfer sometimes, or usually it's much cheaper. But this is like dynamic factor. But definitely it's gonna be in the future. It's supposed to be much cheaper, or at least it's gonna be much more transparent. Meaning that if there is some sort of developer who's gonna build the subscription-based models, it's gonna charge some sort of whatever part of the payment or of the whatever thing. But that's what's gonna be absolutely transparent for us. And it's always possible to take the code, create different protocol, remove the fee, and just go, right? So these are the possibilities that are not normally available for in the centralized world. So yep. So how can we actually involve the Chronos and Ethereum Alarm Clock in this kind of subscription economy? So we are talking about providing some sort of automation in the or to facilitate the payments, or to facilitate from the provider point of view some sort of conditions. Here we just can say that we can set up the recurrent payment to the contract that represents the payment towards the provider, which is essentially we might see this as a rather a subscription currently. The the thing that's really like different, but is that you can just send a some like a monthly payment every month rather than locking the whole upfront some significant amount of cryptocurrency on the subscription contract. So this is where the Ethereum Alarm Clock can work. Actually, we have already implemented a very simple recurring payment smart contract that is using Ethereum Alarm Clock. You can actually find the explanation and the code in a quick documentation section on the GitHub repository in the wiki section. So yeah, you can find some sort of examples on how this can be facilitated by using the Ethereum Alarm Clock.
And once we go to the main net, we will be one of the only, if not the only, trustless way to kind of schedule out something. If you wanted to pay for a service for 12 months or something like that, you could do that. If you pay for everything up front for a year, you could, for example, schedule a DAI stablecoin, and that would address the volatility. And you could just pay for a service for like 12 to execute 12 times once a month for the next year.
Yeah,
Is that right?
yeah, that's definitely doable. Um, yeah, one thing that I think is worth to mention is that since the Ethereum alarm clock, how we see that is more of the general purpose, scheduling protocol, and the payment and recurring payment is just one of the use cases. We definitely see that that's obviously doable. Yeah, and we just looking at things much broader. So yeah, but that's a very good example of the one of the use cases that can be facilitated by using the Ethereum alarm clock.
Great.
So
So what's going on in this diagram?
okay, yeah, so here we can actually look from on the sides from the other perspective. So here there is from the perspective of the provider, might be merchant, might be whatever, service provider. So we could do something like, essentially how you can solve this problem without using Ethereum alarm clock to facilitate the payments is that if you have the tokens that you want to pay for the subscription, you can do the operation of allowing the payment or the subscription to to transfer those tokens, which means that you are not really transferring them, but you sending some sort of a signed check of of the transaction that might happen, and then it's up to the provider whether it's gonna collect this tokens on a daily basis, every hour, every whatever, maybe once a month, maybe once a year, you don't know. So that's definitely is a flexible factor, because sometimes if the payment is not big enough, then it makes no sense to collect it every whatever time, right? But with the approval scheme, there is one thing that you might essentially, if you want to transfer from, then the approval is not being taken into account when you do the transfer for tokens, which means that you can approve in ERC20, you can approve more tokens than you will be able to, and then you can transfer them somewhere else. So they essentially not available. So one of the ideas on how to use Chronos is to watch for the balance that is allowed to the subscription, and if it drops for whatever to whatever level, you can actually trustlessly act upon that kind of event.
So ChronoLogic is leading in the area of this monitoring ability. Is that right?
Yeah, so we don't really know any other actually protocol that's having this kind of capabilities. This is essentially a very powerful idea because it's very general. we see that we proven that before on Melonport that we can provide something like a stop loss functionality. This is very similar actually to the stop loss, because this would mean that even though some customer allowed us to get those tokens as a payment, but then he don't have those tokens anymore, which means that we can automate the cancellation of the service. Obviously, we
Mm-hmm.
you can program whatever we want, so we can wait until certain amount of time, we can send a warning and all this kind of stuff. So that's very powerful.
Yeah, this is a good example of how smart contracts are getting smarter and smarter as the development goes to the next stage.
Yeah, totally agree. So that's kind of how we basically might be, facilitating these from very generic parts. So, yep, let's go to the. Oh, sorry, I have some problems. My PowerPoint just crashed. Guys, give me a second. I'm gonna restart it.
So, Peter, I just wanted to mention about subscriptions going decentral. What kind of vendors do you think are going to go on board? Do you think that you'll have these big service providers that will now have Bitcoin as to say, I accept Bitcoin or I accept Ethereum on their website, and then that's the way this is going to get started? Or do you think it's going to be from the perspective of the EIP proposal that will kind of from the ground up, the standardization will let the providers know that that's available?
Um, so guys, sorry, I still have some issues with setting up the thing, but yeah, so it's really hard to answer this question actually. So one of the initiatives that is actually happening now is the what we call these ERC 948. I'm just trying to start okay. Let me know, guys, if you see my presentation. For some reason I can't go full screen because it's
Yeah,
just.
it's no problem. We can see it.
All right, let me maybe just make it slightly bigger and hide this. So yeah, this is like emergency thing, but it
No
happens.
problem.
We just live streaming, so different things can happen. So yeah, let me go back to the ERC 948. So this is a good, very interesting initiative that aims to standardize the representation of the subscriptions or payments, as I shown on the previous slides, and why it's gonna happen. So since on blockchains everything is pretty much uh, transparent and available as a data, then the aim is actually to create a minimal interface that allows interoperability between the wallets, which we aiming to the solution that allow you to, let's say, using one wallet to subscribe to whatever this subscription you want, but then any other wallet is be able to show you, let's say, the what subscription you have and all this kind of information, which is very, very powerful. And also, I'm not sure if this kind of solutions are available in the fiat actually. So if you know, I mean the attendees of the live stream, if you know some of them, if you could put this on the question box. I mean the idea of having like a list of whatever the subscriptions you are actually paying for. I would like to have one. I don't know. I haven't seen this kind of
Yeah, I know I do a
solution.
lot of my subscriptions through PayPal, so I have to, click
Yeah.
on 20 things to try to find that list. They really keep it hidden so that, I'm always surprised when I'm charged.
Oh yeah, totally. So yeah. Yeah. So there is a couple of the there is couple of the wallets that are working on the ERC 948, and we really also as ChronoLogic, we are participating in the working group. So we're doing some progress, and we definitely wanna like take into the account many different possibilities and all these things that we think is they gonna be important. So
Yeah,
okay, we have
and the people in this group, they know that the Ethereum Alarm Clock is one of the most well-known code bases protocols for scheduling and doing it on-chain trustlessly. So they have a lot of respect for Piper, Miriam, and
yeah,
ChronoLogic.
definitely. Yeah, exactly. So we definitely have some recognition in the community, and we are usually mentioned in the white papers, whatever the things that the other projects are doing, and we always open and happy to help and to share and obviously see where we can help, where our protocol can fit. We believe that there is no point to reinvent the wheel many times. So yeah, definitely looking forward for this initiative. So um, so work in progress. We have a weekly meeting, so we discuss, pretty intensively on the ideas and the directions we're gonna go, etc. So yeah, I'm pretty happy on being able to work with the other guys. So yeah, we have a question. So would you need another token for being ERC 948 compliant? Well, we don't have yet the final specification, but rather not. It's gonna be rather on a token, I would say. Probably it's gonna be like the ERC. I mean, not the interface for the other smart contracts that just can be discovered and read by the by the clients, by the wallets. Although I don't know, might end up with a token startup, but I don't think so.
That's good to know.
All right, so yep, okay. So yeah, I think we more or less done with the content. So if you have guys any questions, we happy to answer them.
Yeah, and I'm curious to find out from the community if you have any ideas of how this whole decentralized subscription model may evolve, because we're very early on with the development. Uh, People are really just brainstorming and figuring out how this could work right now. There's no way to do recurring payments on Ethereum right now. The closest thing I think is what we have. I'm not really sure what else is out there, um, but we're really creating the future right now.
Yep.
We do have another question in the question box. Are there any updates to EAC v2?
So yeah, well, we kind of wrapping and researching things, especially there is what we see very hard problem on the claiming mechanism. So we definitely did a improvement with the previous version. We have much more efficient on-chain version, but we definitely want to, we're striving to do as best as possible thing. It obviously doesn't mean that we're gonna research this infinitely, but we definitely feel that we can make much more progress on that. And yeah, we're happy to share our ideas and where we are in progress during the live streams. There is always a lot of questions on our Telegram channel. We happy to answer them. And yep.
And someone said they're looking forward to running a time node. So as soon as the security audit is complete, we'll be going to the mainnet, and mycrypto.com will have a send later option, which will require time nodes to execute transactions for end users. So that's when the time nodes would really be in demand. Is that right, Peter?
Yep, exactly. So yeah, obviously you can run the time node on the Covan network, but since this is a test network, right? So it doesn't bring any value for the operators. So we believe that it's gonna be very very important role on the network because in order to bootstrap the network and show and prove that things works, we need to have reliable time nodes. So
Right.
it's always the market, problem or like chicken and egg, problem. So yeah, we very appreciate your role as a community and your willingness to help us to run the time node, to help the bootstrap the network. So very, we basically very excited and
Well,
thankful for your role.
definitely. We need the community. So, Peter, you are really leading the way here with the thought leadership about subscriptions, and I'm looking forward to seeing how you flesh out these ideas in the working group and maybe on the blog in the future.
Oh yeah, definitely. So since I'm traveling a bit currently, it's really hard to put things together for me. But yeah, one of the ideas is to describe, the possibilities and make a very good, blog post on this topic.
Great. So everyone should follow the ChronoLogic blog and follow Peter on Medium and possibly follow uh, Peter and ChronoLogic on Twitter and Telegram as well.
Yep. All right. So let's wrap it up. Thank you for your time. You can always find the recording on our YouTube channel. There are a bunch of links that you can visit. You probably know about them. So let's keep in touch and see you next week.